Welcome to the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko, and he is going to miss all the fun with the two hosts of Let's Go Duffalo. First, the star of the show, Ryan Duffy. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
I am so excited to have you here because I've listened to the podcast and one Mr. Pat Duffy. Now you're sharing the spotlight.
Okay, first of all, you said star of the show and you didn't talk to me first, which bothers me.
We never talked to you first.
I know, you're right. But I'm saying, you're going to say star of the show. And for those who don't know, Ryan, my brother, is Ryan here. That's how far down this show has gone. We're going to family members to get co-hosts at this point.
Is this what Thanksgiving's like? Like, because this is not starting off great.
I
Okay?
can't remember the last time I spent at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, he's right. Well, I go to Detroit a lot to go to watch the football game, which we're going to again this year to watch the Bills play the Lions. And he's not coming.
Nope.
I could just do the segment alone on leaving his brother to go to Detroit alone, but I won't.
I'm not his mom. What do you want from me?
Listen, never mind. Maybe it's because I'm an only child. Let's first start with very serious business before we get to Buffalo, because I'd love to get into the podcast discussion with you guys. Number one, Ryan, I want to just talk a bit about injuries that have been going on. Number one, Tua, and number two, JJ Watt, which I am still trying to decipher how JJ Watt got onto a field. Tua, I think it's starting to come into focus a little bit.
Yeah, I think so obviously you hate to see it, and it's scary, and it puts the game that we love so much in a way different context.
Yes.
When you see someone lying down. Saw it with Dane Jackson on the Bills earlier this season too. Seeing it with Tua, it's an awful situation. I think that if anything, the bright side of this whole thing, if you could find one, is that it adds so much awareness to the casual fan of like, hey, this is serious business. These players are putting themselves in a position that it could be very detrimental to their health, and I think it helps the fans look at it from a different perspective.
I think it's interesting the fact that you meant the casual fan who comes in every once in a while is kind of like, oh, football. We know as fans, Duffy, these guys go out there to play that Sunday game.
Sure.
To their detriment.
Absolutely, but here's the thing, what Ryan brought up. The NFL doesn't want the casual fan to see what they saw. The NFL doesn't want the casual fan to know that every time they walk out on a field and for every play, they're putting their life in their hands. And look, that's a fact of playing football. These guys know that walking out. What's alarming, especially about the Tua Tagovailoa situation, is there are stopgaps because these guys are so competitive. And I mean, Tua, for example, is fighting for a contract. If he picks up a concussion again and it gets out, that could affect how much money he makes. He has every reason to want to keep playing. How the heck Tua Tagovailoa ended that half in Buffalo and was able to play a game, forget the second half, 4 days later, right? Like, and here's what I can't wrap my head around, and I'm not a big city doctor as I play with my pretend suspenders. Tua Tagovailoa was diagnosed with a head injury in that game against Buffalo, and then it was
back.
Then it was changed to a back injury. So it was initially a head, changed to a back. The Dolphins the NFL fired the independent neurological, checkup person because of it. Here's the problem. The Dolphins still had him listed with a back injury all week long. So your doctors misdiagnosed him with a back injury that did not actually exist after, come on. You don't have to be a genius to see through what happened here. And with the JJ Watt thing, how do you allow a guy who had AFib, had to have his heart shocked back into rhythm to take a field on Sunday? And it's become such a common occurrence for these health risks to happen. It was barely a story on that Sunday.
Well, what's crazy about this is that the discussion of all this health and safety, and you have the NFL and the Players Association coming together, the JJ Watt thing kind of scares me so much more than the Tua Tagovailoa. The other end of this, too, is are we in a position now where we cannot allow anybody, as much as the NFL cares about their players, to come in and be influenced by any other team doctor or anybody else? It has to be someone totally unrelated to the NFL, a total different doctor altogether.
I think you have to. You have to have those independent people there to be the ones to make the call. Look at how many players from bygone eras are suffering long term from injuries there. Like you're going to repeat that same cycle of outcome if you don't have someone there to pull the curtain back and say, like, hey, these people can't play. Like, this player is too injured to play. This could severely hurt them long term later in life.
Just real quick, but here, that sounds great. You guys are being naive. That's impossible, because at the end of the day, the check comes from the NFL or the check comes from a Players Association, and you have so much pressure from the people standing around, including the players themselves. There is no one that can be truly unbiased being paid by a league that benefits from their stars being on the field.
All right, so then let's go to a solution, possibly expanding the rosters, having more quarterbacks, 3 or 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks available to play at any game.
That sounds sounds like a great idea. You don't have enough starting quarterbacks to star in a league with 32 teams without a backup. And there's your problem, right? Like, I mean, there are only so many human beings that can play this game at a high level. I like the expanding the roster idea. It's not going to help.
All right, we'll see what happens. Bill's segment coming up next with the stars of Let's Go Duffalo. This should be interesting. You're watching the Rochester Press Box. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. This segment, Bill's segment, is being brought to you by Ralph Honda for 3 generations, celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right, ralphhonda.com. All right, Buffalo Bills, 17-point comeback. Fresh off of the very tough loss to Miami.
Why would you bring that second part up?
Because it happened within 6 days.
Okay, fine, whatever.
How do you feel?
I feel great. Look, I don't put any stock into that Miami game. Whatever happened, happened. You played well enough. You had nobody on the field. I am amazed at what the Bills were able to do against the Ravens. You were down 20-3 with 4 minutes left in that first half. And here's the thing, man. The stand they got there on that last Ravens drive, if the Ravens punch it in for 7 there, the game's over. You're not going to make up those points in the second half in that kind of weather. They did it with their roster decimated again. They had 3 healthy wide receivers in for most of the second half of that game. You had Jordan Poyer as the only consistent starting defensive back in that game, and he made 2 massive plays. 1 play in that end zone, and I'm going to say it, everyone's calling me stupid. That is a season-saving interception with 4 minutes left. This Ravens team is going to be up there for the potential first overall seed. That's the difference between a game in Buffalo in the playoffs and a game in Baltimore in the playoffs. That was what, and you won a 1-possession game finally. Everything you needed to see as a skeptical fan happened Sunday against Baltimore.
How does he not mention the fact you came back and won this game? Something that the Buffalo Bills have been questioned about before when you're down and they come back and they win.
If the Bills historically over the last couple of years, and first of all, you are stupid, but just because you have a good point, I appreciate, you just saying what you're putting out there. But what to your point, the fact that the Bills came back to win after being down as far as they were, and the fact that if the Bills are not historically over the last couple of years have not blown the doors off of a team, they're not winning the game in those close games. That whole situation in that second half felt fantastic to watch as a fan, fantastic to watch as a fan of football in general, because
Absolutely.
Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen is an electric matchup. Absolute, so much fun to watch.
It is the key of those two things. First of all, they're brothers, so he can call him stupid. I can't call him stupid. He can call him stupid.
You can do it too. I'm not. What am I going to do about it?
I'm not a brother. I mean, what are you going to do? But at any rate, what are your thoughts on about that? Because there have been this sort of matchups, Allen versus Mahomes, not so well, but Allen against Jackson and getting this win and potentially seeing this team in about another 3 or 4 months.
Okay, first of all, Allen versus Mahomes. Allen got the win in the regular season last year and should have got the win against him in the playoffs. Okay, that wasn't his fault. That's the defense's fault. Look, man, the AFC when it comes to young quarterbacks is amazing. It's like the late 80s, early 90s all over again with Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, Boomer Esiason, Jim Everett, right? Like, you're going to have this season potentially matchups between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert gets thrown in there, right? You got the Burrow situation, trying to figure out that whole thing. It looks like Trevor Lawrence is all of a sudden blossoming into a legitimate prospect. As wide open as the NFC is for who's going to come out of it, anything can happen because of the talented young quarterbacks that reside in the AFC right now.
Got a young quarterback against Pittsburgh. What are your thoughts this week?
I mean, it adds some level of anxiety as a Bills fan. I'll be completely honest with you, because if I knew that we were going against the Bills were going against Mitchell Trubisky, I feel a little bit better about it. Not knowing what Kenny Pickett can bring to the team or to the Steelers offense that is completely reeling, that needs a shot, that they got a shot with putting Pickett in with the second half of last week's game. It adds a level of maverick that I'm not excited to see. Now, the probability of him being successful against a Bills defense is low, don't get me wrong, but it's still a level of uncertainty that I don't feel comfortable
worry
with.
about his facial expression.
You shut Lamar
do.
Jackson out in the second half. Kenny Pickett is a first-round rookie who, in his debut, in a half of football, threw a Peterman, almost a half a Peterman, over half a Peterman of interceptions. You're a 14-point favorite, and Kenny Pickett makes you nervous?
The Bills were a 16-plus point underdog against Minnesota a couple years ago before an unproven rookie quarterback came in and
not his first start in history.
Okay.
All right. Let's Go Duffalo, the podcast. This is what they do. You've got to watch it. You got to listen to it. I don't even know if I want to do a video. It's audio now, right?
It's all audio because of that stupid mustache he's got.
Gee, look at these two. This is so much fun. All right, coming up next, like it or not. I don't think he likes his mustache, but we'll talk about it anyway.
Here's the Press Box Trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Whoa! Fall fun and festivals, and a whole lot of pumpkins. Hello again, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. My next show will take you to an annual pumpkin festival like none you've ever seen before. Check out the Getaway Guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. And it is our pleasure to introduce Pat Duffy from the break room on WCMF, who's breaking in here on the original Rochester Press Box.
I don't care how much experience you guys have. I am not conforming to your jacket standards in this room.
Well, the bar's not real high. Duffy, Derek Jeter, are you emotionally invested in his retirement tour?
I'm not. Well, here's the thing about baseball with me. First of all, I grew up a Blue Jays fan just because I'm a closest in proximity team kind of kid. So I hated him. And then as I got older, I got 2 kids now, wife, one of the sports had to fall away. So I think baseball was that sport for me. So it's not something I've followed religiously the last couple of years. And I'm kind of standing back laughing at this whole Jeter thing. Now, I'll give Jeter this. He's what I like to call the bridge between old school baseball and new school baseball. Something that fathers and sons could look at together and be like, that's how you play the game. But when he's gone, that's gone. I think the retirement of Jeter may mean the death of Major League Baseball as a premier sport in America. Makes me a little sad. But other than that, meh.
It might be a little overstated.
Yeah, I mean, there are other guys who play. I just laugh now at the people who want to rip Jeter for everything that he is not, which anybody who's logical, even a Yankee fan who loves Jeter, knows what he's not.
Well, you can use his name, your boy.
Well, Keith Olbermann won. They make up these arguments. You make up an argument that say, look at his statistics. Really? Because Derek Jeter was all about statistics. I mean, he has great numbers. Most of those are based on longevity. But I always thought that what Jeter brought to the Yankees was not based in statistics. Mm-hmm. And is he perfect? No. Is there a little bit of phoniness to him? Oh, I'm sure there is. But he's lived in the public spotlight for 20 years. And name me the next guy in all of sports who would get this type of treatment and even respect that much from his rivals. So make up all the things that he's not. I know what he is.
A guy that is old school and yet a little bit of new school. Listen, have they gone over the top with the love affair? It's ridiculous. And I found out the last few months, Derek Jeter loves Derek Jeter too. We saw it a little bit with Mariano Rivera. We saw it with Dr. J and Kareem when they go on these tours, which I'm uncomfortable. But what is undeniable, forget about his 3,400 hits. I only care about October.
Yeah.
You can't deny what he's done in October. That's not a case of longevity. That's just being clutch in the bright lights of New York.
Welcome back to the Press Box. This segment, like it or not, is being brought to you by Sport Clips, where the MVP experience is better than ever. Sport Clips, the pros for men's hair. No appointment needed. Stop by a Rochester location today.
Are you paying attention? Sorry.
Oh, don't do this. Now I'm going to start over here. All right.
Terrible.
Major League Baseball, like it or not, they're in their playoffs. Any team you like or don't like, Ryan?
I love the Yankees this year. I love the Yankees, and I know that that's a little bit of a controversial thing to say.
The best team in baseball. I like them a lot.
And it's actually
American
Detroit.
League. Shut up.
Right. I'll tell you why. On the AL side, I love the Yankees because, one, I still have a certain feeling toward the Astros, and I think if there's any team in the playoffs on the AL side that can take down the Astros, I think it's the Yankees. But also on the National League side, I would just love to see a Yankees-Mets World Series. I know you're a Mets fan,
Yes.
so I think that would be fun to watch.
I would have similar anxiety as you as Bills fans would be in the playoffs, but I understand that. 4 teams though in the National League, I think over 100 wins, or 3 teams in the National League.
Yeah, it is insane, right? Like everything that San Diego did to try and catch the Dodgers still blew the doors off them, yet they're a dangerous team coming in on a wild card. I don't know what to think about the National League. I mean, the Phillies make it for the first time since they've signed Bryce Harper. They're a legitimately dangerous team. I do think San Diego's a dangerous team. You can never count out the Dodgers, the way that they've been playing lately. I mean, for as wide open as the NFC is in the NFL, the NL is even more wide open playoff-wise right now. And I mean, look, and there's a reason I didn't bring up the Mets.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, what happened?
Don't do it. We collapsed. We won 100 games, and the Braves won 101.
3 days. 3 days this year you weren't leading the division, and it was the last 3 days of the season.
Got swept in Atlanta. I lived it, I saw it, and I experienced it. Thank you, sir. I will remember that. Wide right. Coming up next, Unfinished Business. I know how to hit them. I know. On the Rochester Press Box. The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business is brought to you by Genesee Brew House, your beer destination since 2012. Visit the gift shop, enjoy a tasting at a pilot brewery, and dine in their pub-style restaurant, the Genesee Brew House. All right, firing off folks with Unfinished Business, Pat Duffy.
There was an NFL retirement this week that you probably missed. Blake Bortles, former Jaguars quarterback, hung it up, said he's all done. He's played for 4 teams in the last 2 years. Not a great finish. And actually, Blake Bortles was kind of a joke coming out of college and the first couple of years in the NFL. Then all of a sudden, he took steps. Well, not really, but the team looked really well. Blake Bortles was a quarterback of a Jaguars team that went to the AFC Championship game and battled down to the last possession with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Not only that, in his 3 playoff games, Blake Bortles did not throw an interception in the playoffs. I bring this up for a reason. One, Blake Bortles' statistics are actually a lot better than you remember. He has almost 25% more touchdown passes than he does interceptions, so that's a respectable NFL career. But even more important, Blake Bortles took a step forward in his 3rd and 4th year in the NFL. And there are a lot of quarterbacks that are young right now, and this is Josh Allen's fault. Josh Allen was a Blake Bortles-looking quarterback. In fact, they compared him to him a ton. 3 years in, giant step forward. Josh Allen did it. Blake Bortles took his team to the AFC Championship. Why can't it be our guy? And here's the thing. It might be. You could see a flash or two, Daniel Jones, where they look okay for a little while. But the fact of the matter is this. You have a lot better chance of your quarterback being a Blake Bortles than you do a Josh Allen.
With all the success that the Bills have had in the last few years, it's become clear that they're a desirable team to see live. And subsequently, a seat to a game that some season ticket holders couldn't give away 6 years ago now comes at a premium price, with some sites as high as $200 for some of the worst seats in the house. For those traveling outside of Buffalo, factor in gas, parking, concessions, and there's a high probability that you're looking close to $1,000 for 2 people to go to one Sunday afternoon game, and even mediocre seats, with the primetime games bumping the price up even more. Now, with this cost barrier, it may be a little too much for some fans, including myself, to attend a game in person, and I'm here to remind you that there are a ton of perks to watching a game in the comfort of your own home. 1, no waking up early to load up the car and sit in traffic. 2, no braving the elements that have become so prevalent at some of the Bills games this season. 3, no waiting in line for the bathroom. And 4, once the game is over, so is your commute. So while you may feel some FOMO by not being in attendance for some of the Bills games this season, I invite you to throw on a pair of slippers, put on a pot of chili, and relax on your couch while your Buffalo Bills bring home the win, while the rest of those suckers in attendance are stuck in gridlock.
My official business has to do with one Mr. Aaron Judge. He is the American League champion, and when it comes to home runs, the king in the American League from now on. Thank goodness it's a Yankee. That's my unfinished business. Now I definitely have to get back to these 2 guys, because I was so happy to have both of you here for Let's Go Duffalo. Who's going to do the plug for the podcast?
Oh, well, that's easy. It's the professional, right? Let's Go Duffalo. It's available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. We post every Monday, unless the Bills are playing a Monday night or Thursday night game, in which case you can check it out. But yeah, everywhere you got to get it. Anywhere you get your podcast, get it there.
It was a pleasure having both of you in. Now, because I listened to the podcast, I have a treat for both of you, just so you understand. During one of your episodes, you talked about a particular snack that your offensive coordinator
got honey stinger waffles.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Just for you and for you.
This is, geez.
Because it's, it was in my pocket. Sorry.
It tastes like it too.
And I hope it's a future endorsement. Do you hear that, honey stinger?
It's warm.
Not anymore. Not after that face I just made. This is what they do. Yeah.
Come on.
Are they supposed to be thigh warm like this?
I don't listen. I wanted to surprise you.
Oh man, that is.
It's delicious.
It's not. Is this going to make me hyper for the rest of the day?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Hyper
man.
than this show. Bill Pucko is back to take the reins. We'll be back next week for the Rochester Press Box. You're going to have to clean that up. You too.